Peter Schrager, NFL Network Good Morning Football co-host, although there's 4 of you.
Yeah.
Can you be a co-host with 4?
No.
But are you the co-host? Is it you and Kay Adams who are co-hosting?
I feel like, I'd say I'm like the 4th Beatle. I'm more like Pete Best out there.
Oh,
I'm
you are?
like, I chime in once in a while, but they're the stuff.
Are you still doing sideline?
I'm doing sidelines and I'm doing studio for Fox. I'm alternating Sundays. So I'm going to be in the studio in L.A. this weekend, which should be fun.
And then you'll do a sideline.
And I'm doing Chiefs-Niners Week 3 Arrowhead opener, which I'm excited for because suddenly they're a fun team to watch.
I was also wondering about this. I just mentioned it to McLovin, that Dak Prescott went from a steal, this unbelievable find. We got our franchise quarterback. We got a guy not making a lot of money. We can, spread the money around. We got a chance to go back to the Super Bowl. Now, all of a sudden, we're wondering if he's a franchise quarterback.
It's an amazing conversation. What's interesting is he's a 4th-round pick, which means he can negotiate his contract after this season. Goff and Wentz can't. They have to wait for another year before they can get that availability to do that, which means Jerry's kind of got to decide right now on Dak, and that's Dak kind of controlling his own destiny. And 1 week into it, if I'm Jerry Jones, am I throwing $25 million at what I saw last week? Or are we like, let's go to the drawing board again, let's get another guy? It's really interesting because not only was he the NFL Offensive Player of the Year his rookie year, he was the face of the Dallas Cowboys. And you look at generational guys, Aikman, Romo, he was that guy. This week is a huge game. At home, national TV, NBC, the whole thing. If the Cowboys offense falls on its face again, people are going to stop being so nice to Dak Prescott.
Do you think he's a franchise quarterback?
I don't know yet. He had the most wins out of any NFC quarterback over the last 2 years, and yet I'm still not sure whether he's that guy.
Well, this is a different era. If this was when Bart Starr was, quarterbacking the Packers or Bob Greasy was quarterbacking the Miami Dolphins, you could manage a game. Now we want to know what kind of stats you have.
It's funny.
And Dak Prescott, we're waiting for those stats, and we haven't seen it in the last 9 games where he hasn't thrown for 200 yards.
No, it's wild. And, you look at it, Paxton Lynch was drafted before him. Connor Cook was drafted before him. And everyone said, oh, what idiots. But the evaluation out of college, no one had Dak Prescott as a 1st or 2nd round pick. So now there's this revisionist history of, well, wait a second. Is he that great, or was that just the ideal situation with the offensive line, the running back, and, of course, Dez and Witten on the field? None of those wide receivers stepped up either last week. It was Linehan had a bad game. We've seen quarterbacks come out and have great first years in the NFL and then kind of taper off. I've heard RG3's name being mentioned. There are some others. I think Dak is the ultimate teammate. He's the ultimate face of a franchise. But for Cowboys fans in that market, I think a 5-11 season is unacceptable right now.
If I said which quarterback won't be with his respective team in 2 years, and I gave you Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, Derek Carr, Dak Prescott.
It's tough because all of those teams have general managers who drafted those guys, so they're kind of invested in them. They want them to work out. You don't want to get another one. The one that's so interesting to me is Prescott, because of what we're going through here in Dallas with this big changing of the guard. And if Jason Garrett's back next year, I think Dak will be back. But again, if this season hits the skids and they're 3-13 or they're 4-12, I don't think anyone's safe.
What would you do if you're the Packers with Aaron Rodgers? Is it up to him or is it up to your medical staff?
They have the most cautious, the most responsible medical staff in the NFL. I've seen Scott Tolzien start multiple games where Rodgers wanted to play. If they're giving him the okay, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers because this is a huge divisional game. You got to win. You got to beat the Vikings at home. And Aaron Rodgers gives you the best chance to win. If I'm the Packers, I am playing Aaron Rodgers if he is given the medical okay.
What if he wants to play, but the medical clearance is not there?
I don't know. That one's tough. And I think everybody in America would say, well, you trust the doctors, but Aaron Rodgers is a gamer, man. And I don't think any other quarterback necessarily would have been out there last week, and they wouldn't have won that game with any other quarterback.
Well, I wonder if the medical team cleared him to play in the second half.
He was out there.
I know. I wonder because I think there's damage in that knee. Now, the question is, how severe is the damage? And I don't believe this when they say, well, you can't do further damage. Well, you can.
You absolutely can.
You can.
Look at Ryan Tannehill last year. The same exact thing happened. But it's funny because you saw, it's one thing, I've done sidelines for years. It's one thing when the guy goes under the tent. When they get on the cart, it's over. The cart is undefeated. When the guy gets on the cart and he's holding his knee, goodbye, I'll see you next year. And then Tafoya comes out at halftime and is like, blah, 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 and Aaron Rodgers is going to, I'm like, whoa. I've never seen a guy go on the cart, hold his knee, tears in his eyes, and then 30 minutes in real time be ready to lead his team back. I don't know if it was miraculous. I don't know if it was just me going to an immediate dark place thinking we lost Rodgers, or if it was just adrenaline. But that performance, it might be forgotten 2 weeks from now. I'll never forget what he just did because that was incredible. And I think if he could do that, I think he can win any game. I think he can play against the Vikings and get it done.
I still wonder if he would have gone out for the second half if he had not signed that big contract.
Interesting. It's interesting. Michaels had a great comment. It was late in the, he goes, if it's 24-0, do you even bring him back? Even if he can, is he even out there? The answer is, who cares? He went out there and he played. He got the contract. He did it all. He's got the weight of the city behind him. He's got that whole franchise behind him. I know it's a long season, but this might be their most important game. Week 2 at home against the defending champions who knocked him out last year.
Okay, what is must-see TV? The one game, if you could only watch one game this weekend.
Chiefs versus Steelers. I'm fascinated by Mahomes. The Steelers beat the Chiefs 3 times in a row, and each time Alex Smith just could not get it going. Like, it was dink and dunk, and they didn't have the big shot to Tyreek. The Steelers own the Chiefs in recent history, and yet they have this giant X factor with a quarterback that can stretch the field. And if the Steelers go 0-1-1, the Le'Veon question starts sprouting up again. The Bengals are now undefeated, and who knows what we're going to get moving forward from the Browns. Like, that game is fascinating because the Chiefs put a whooping on the Chargers in their building, and now they're going to go into another AFC Powers building, and I think they might do the same.
Can the Steelers get to the Super Bowl without Le'Veon Bell?
Yes. Yes, they can, but it's going to take a lot more than if they didn't have him on. I mean, he is that good. I think he's fat. And James Conner played great last week. But that was a Steelers team who was up 14 points in the fourth quarter against the Browns. Everyone's patting the Browns on the back and saying, great job. The Steelers were up 14 on the Browns and couldn't close the door. That worries me a little bit.
Well, also, Ben, I just don't know if there's another quarterback who you can say he can throw 4 touchdowns or throw 4 interceptions. Like, what other quarterback comes to mind? Elite quarterback.
I was going to say, there's one.
Yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's the only one I got.
But here's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Yeah. I guess you could say Eli.
Favre and Eli, right? Like, Favre used to throw a lot of picks. But
yeah.
Ben, it's, quarter to quarter with him. He can have 3 amazing plays, and then it's 3 boneheaded plays. You're like, what's going on? Steelers are pretty thin, man. I mean, it's like James Conner played great last week. Juju played well, and Antonio Brown played well. But if you look offense and defense, aside from maybe Cam Hayward and a couple other guys on that D, their roster is not bustling with young talent. It's like they're waiting for guys to step up. Steelers-Chiefs this week is a very interesting game. Chiefs have been embarrassed by the Steelers. I want to see if they can return the favor.
And also, you have tweeted out already that we should be jumping on the Bengals bandwagon. Yeah. If it was the 2-0 Ravens, then we would be shouting from the mountaintops that they're back and a playoff Super Bowl contender. Why are we not acknowledging the Bengals?
Because of just our own ingrained history with the Bengals. I think if you looked objectively at their first 2 games, they scored 34 points in both games. They were in the lead late in both those games and closed the door. And their quarterback played as well as the other quarterback, it was Andrew Luck and Joe Flacco. I think objectively you would say the Bengals are a team to be reckoned with, but because it's the Bengals, people want to wait until January, which, whether fair or not, it is what it is. They could be 15-1 going into the playoffs, and the majority of the country is going to pick against them in that first game.
Well, they haven't earned our trust.
That's fair. Objectively, they played amazing football. And if the Ravens had won that game last night, and the Ravens were 2-0 with that defense and all that thing, we'd be doing flips saying, well, the Ravens, I mean, remember, Joe Flacco has got a fire lit under him this year. Objectively, the Bengals put a whooping on the Ravens last night, and no one's talking about them this morning, and no one will until January when they have to actually win the division to get our respect. And then win a playoff game.
Yeah, win a playoff game.
I know.
Peter Schrager, NFL Network Good Morning Football co-host, FoxSports.com senior national writer as well. The importance of the New England-Jacksonville game is what?
It's big. It's big because Jaguars won a game in New York that people were like, all right, they were 3-13 last year. The Giants are going to be pretty good this year. That was a big win. But this one is the first game in conference, and it's against the guys that beat you, and it kind of sets the tone. If you go 2-0 beating the Giants in New York and you beat the Patriots, I think it's a message to the rest of the league. Last year's run was cool. It was great. Everything. You've got to do it again. So to me, if the Jaguars can beat the Patriots and do it the way Jaguars win games, which is low scoring, beat the snot out of the other quarterback and set the tone, I think there's a message. And for those young Jaguars defenders, we're talking the Telvin Smiths and the Jalen Rams, all that, to get one of these teams and win. And, the Steelers is one thing, but to beat the Patriots after all this week of buildup says a lot.
You all in on the Rams?
I am. I'm talking historic offense and really good defense. All in on the Rams.
Do you think the offense is better than the defense?
Yes. Sean McVay showed a little bit of his playbook on Monday night. That was almost like he called off the dogs when it got late. But I know they were losing at halftime, but all those little handoffs to the wide receivers, the first drive of the game, they're handing the ball off to Cooper Kupp, and they did it next to Brandon Cooks, and they did it next to Robert Woods. That's just scratching the surface. His playbook is so big and so diverse, and no one has seen anything of it because they didn't play in the preseason. I think this offense this week is going to put up another huge number. The Rams are legit, and until there's injuries, because their depth is not great, until there's injuries, I don't see anyone. Maybe the Vikings defense week 4. I don't see anyone in the near future really putting it to him.
But I also look at Jared Goff. I think this is all on Jared Goff. I think that he is carrying an inordinate amount of pressure because your defense is set.
Yep.
Your offense has skilled position guys.
Yep.
You got a good offensive line.
Great offensive line.
So it comes down to.
And the best play caller.
Yeah.
Maybe outside of Sean Payton.
This is Jared Goff right now.
Isn't it funny? There's a very similar situation in Chicago right now.
Yes. I said the same thing, that you make the deal for Khalil Mack. You're saying to your fan base, Mitchell Trubisky's a franchise quarterback.
They hired Matt Nagy, who's an offensive-minded coach. They hired Helfrich to give him a little of that college feel. They get all those players. Rams and Bears, although the Rams have already had some success, and their quarterback situations are very interesting because if you want to go the next level with it, Goff was taken before Carson Wentz, and Trubisky was taken before Mahomes and Watson. So not only are they all in, they also made a decision in that draft for him to say, we're so all in that we took him over these other guys that looked like they were sure bets and everyone else thought they were too. I think Goff is the real deal. I think he's really good. I think he's really helped by having a great head coach and really good skill position players around him.
Seattle has signed Michael Kendricks, who was released by the Browns. He's pled guilty to insider trading. He's going to prison, and Seattle picked him up and probably going to play against the Bears on Monday night. Should the commissioner be involved in this?
It's like a big picture thing, like white-collar crime. Like, where do we come down on this, right? Like, I feel like all crime should be created equally, and if he's going to prison and the justice system is going to, it's a really tough thing to swallow.
But we're up in arms over domestic violence, and rightfully so, but those guys don't go to prison.
I know.
This is insider trading where you're going to prison.
It's a fascinating case study, and the NFL still has not weighed in on it. So
I know.
Let's see before Sunday, because if he's out there Monday night against the Bears on Monday Night Football and Michael Kendricks makes 13 tackles, has 2 sacks and an interception, at some point Jason Witten needs to cough up and say, yeah, he also is going to jail for insider trading, which is also not a good look. The NFL has enough things going on with all this stuff that this is the last thing they need is this guy on the field. That said, he's not in prison.
What about the commissioner's exempt list?
They could put him on that. They did that a lot of times. They did that for several players. Josh Brown, one of them. Like, let's wait and see. Let's kind of see where we're at with this.
What if they just put his number under, like, it 0496934 when they put him up on the screen and introduce him?
You're ridiculous. What, yeah, dude, I don't want to do a Sunday night intro with where he's going, but we'll just say, yeah, that's.
Yeah. Paulie, do you have the Hall of Fame question?
Yes. There's NFL has listed their modern era nominees for the Hall of Fame. Of these 5 guys they have in the picture, you could only give your vote to one of the 5. John Lynch, Tony Gonzalez, Ed Reed, Champ Bailey, Hines Ward. You only get to pick one.
Great question. You want me to answer mine? I'm going Tony Gonzalez. He's the greatest to ever play the position, not named Gronk. I'm going to go Tony G.
You think Gronk will be recognized as a better tight end than Tony when it's all done?
Yeah.
He's not going to stay healthy enough, long enough.
And there's also going to be the question of, was it Brady and Belichick and McDaniels that helped make Gronk? I think Tony Gonzalez is the greatest tight end to ever play the game, and I think I left that Gronk caveat because there's still a potential of 5 more years. If healthy, he could beat those numbers. But Ed Reed and Tony Gonzalez are my guys, but Tony Gonzalez, to me, best to ever play his position. That's where I'm going on that one.
Yeah, I think Champ Bailey's underrated. John Lynch has come close here. Hines Ward is going to get in. I think it comes down to Ed Reed. Ed Reed was a playmaker. Man,
Defensive player of the year from the safety position.
Would you rather have Ed Reed or Ray Lewis?
It's a great question. Probably go Ray. I feel like Ray birthed that defense. Like that was Ray's, and Ed Reed carried the torch. But I'm not sure that defense is that defense in the early 2000s without Ray Lewis showing Ed Reed the way. That's a political answer, but I love both of them.
Well, I think Rod Woodson showed Ed Reed the way.
That's a great comment.
And people forget how great. I think Rod Woodson, you could make a case, is the best athlete to ever play a defensive position. He could have been an Olympic hurdler.
Safety, corner, and kick returner.
Yes, he was incredible. And he tackled people. He was good at cover. And he had, how many interceptions did he have? 50?
I think he has the most interceptions taken for a touchdown in the history of the game. Also,
yeah, he has the most pick sixes. Yeah.
And to here we are on a Rod Woodson tangent, played in a Super Bowl on a torn ACL.
Came back that year.
And shut down Michael Irvin.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Did you see Steve Smith and Michael Irvin go back and forth last night?
I did. And I'm not going to speak out of school. I don't think that was for show, guys.
No, I don't think it feels like Steve Smith may have a sense of humor, but then he may not. And depending on when you say something. So Michael Irvin has a sense of humor. We know that.
Yes.
But Mike says something, and then all of a sudden, Steve says something, and it feels like, boy, this is on now. He's like saying, I got a master's degree in route running. You got a bachelor's from a community college.
I have a doctorate in route running.
Yes.
And look, Steve Smith, if you want to go through the careers, has more yards, more receptions, all that stuff. Whatever, fine. I'm curious. Colleen Wolfe was the host. I thought she handled it very well on that. How would you have handled that? Would you have made a big joke out of it? Would you have tried to spur it up even more? It was captivating TV. I'm not sure it was comfortable TV. What would you have done?
I think the fact that it was real and it's live, and in that moment, then go for it. If we did that and we were taping something, I might have somebody say, no, I don't want to put that out there. I think looking at the content part of it, I would have said, Steve, what is your problem with Mike? Because you can't just go, all right, we'll be back after this. Like he just said that. And you can see where Mike is looking at him like, are we serious or are we not?
Yeah. And he says, I got 3 rings. And then it becomes this whole conversation about their careers when there's a game going on background.
Yeah.
What's interesting about it is I've had Steve Smith, we've had Steve Smith on our show, and I've had a lot of interaction with Steve Smith on TV. He'll go at it. And it's the drop of the hat. Like we had an absurd debate that got really heated, and I defended my turf, but then afterwards we hugged it out and all that. But I said Josh Rosen has no right to be upset being drafted 10th overall. If he was undrafted or something like that, and this is at the draft. And Steve, to his credit, comes in and is like, I was a 3rd-round pick, but I think anytime you're passed over by someone else, there's a chip on your shoulder. Doesn't matter where and when. And it was this debate. I said, yeah, but he was 10th. He's going to make $22 million this year. He's really crying about it. He's like, you don't know how it feels. And it was this thing where like Steve Smith is very passionate. I think it makes for great TV. And I don't know if they were in on the joke, out on the joke, whatever. I haven't spoken to either one of the guys. I didn't stop watching.
I don't think that there was a joke there, but I would have re-teed one more time. I would like to have just seen where we were going, if we were going to escalate or we were going to try to take the air out of it a little bit.
Have you ever been in a situation like that with 2 on-air guys?
I'm sure I have. Like one of the stranger moments was I was at the Stanley Cup final and Chicago and Philadelphia, and Jeremy Roenick started crying.
Because he was so happy for Chicago?
Well, Chicago won, and then he started crying, and then he just couldn't get it together because he thought, you know what, I never won a Stanley Cup. So he just, when we got done, we're done with the show, and he stood up and was just staring back at the ice. So we're leaving. We're leaving the building.
This is fascinating.
And Jeremy is just standing there looking down at the ice. And nobody said anything to him. I just said, hey, we're going to go. He didn't say anything. But in that moment, I had to, even though he's crying, the audience has to know why you're crying. Like, why is this affecting you?
Yes.
And then he starts to talk about that. Ron Jaworski came on the day after the Super Bowl when the Eagles won, and he started crying. And when I said to him, do you realize, is it sunk in the Eagles have won the Super Bowl? And he got so emotional. But I don't want to, I know you're vulnerable, and I don't want to
I don't want to make this about me and over-dramatize this.
Yes. But I just want to, I had to, let me extract what I can out of this that makes it seem like I am sensitive to you, but also this is good TV that Ron Jaworski is crying because the Eagles have won a Super Bowl. What can I make you cry? What'll make you cry?
Too easy. I don't know. Talk about any ending of any movie I've seen on a flight in the last 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. It's just... I think I cried at the movie The Intern with Robert De Niro. It's like ball of tears.
Was that Anne Hathaway?
She's fantastic in it.
No, she's not.
Fantastic.
She's so bad.
She's pretty fantastic. She not only gets the job, she also saves a marriage. It was incredible.
Is it a documentary?
No, it's just a beautiful love story between man, woman, and intern.
Okay, I cried at Book of Mormon.
Did you?
Yes.
Because it was so amazing? Like you were so overwhelmed with the acting and everything?
No, it's live. Like Springsteen came out, saw him last Friday night.
What'd you think?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
But when he came out and started playing Growing Up, I started crying.
Yeah.
And I said to my wife, I said, honey, I'm going to cry when Springsteen comes out. She goes,
is that the opening song?
Yeah.
Right away, I got chills.
Yeah. He just, he just comes out and boom, and then starts telling a story. But Book of Mormon, which is really funny.
It's hilarious.
At intermission, lights come on, and my kids are going, why are you crying?
Why do you think it was? Because of the...
I just watching somebody do something live. There's something about when you have to do it, and that's why I always put even more pressure on myself when I was handing out the Super Bowl trophy. It's live.
Yeah.
It's right there. I get it. I don't get another take. There's 100 million people watching, and you got to get in, do it, and get out, and do it right. And it's not easy, and so you're in that moment of it's live. And I have great respect when a Broadway show.
Have you told Trey and Matt that, the guys who created Book of Mormon? You should
No.
You should let them. The guys from South Park, they did that.
Yeah.
You should tell them. That's a great story.
Well, we were in basketball together.
Yes, you were.
Yeah,
and Bob Costas
Yeah.
and Al Michaels.
Did you cry at basketball?
Of course I did.
Yeah. Oh boy. All right, it's great to see you.
I love being
Hope
here.
you have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend. He's NFL Network co-host, Good Morning Football. I guess like you're one of the stars of this because you're a co-host.
I'm one of the co-hosts.
Yeah, you and Kay Adams are the co-host of Good Morning Football.
We're the co-hosts, and Nate Burleson and Kyle Brandt. There's a long list of us. I'm
But are
fourth on the...
they co-hosts?
I don't know if you identify them as co-hosts. I don't know.
I don't know. When we had Nate in last week,
Did you call him co-host?
I did not call him a co-host. I think I said contributor to Good Morning Football.
Nate's got a doctorate in route running too, you know.
He does.
Good route runner.
Yeah, and he's a great talent too. It's a great show.
Thank you.
NFL Network, Good Morning Football, Peter Schrager.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.